Hi, you're watching Floyd Steinberg's YouTube channel. I want you to listen to these two synth phrases. Please tell me which one does sound more pleasant to you. There should be a poll on screen right now, so please just check the box. First synth, second synth. Everyone done? Okay, let's resolve this. Yep, of course, both were the same synth. So what was the difference here? Let's talk about this in this video. Here we go. So today I might be Captain Obvious talking here, but well, this is a YouTube synth channel, a SynthTube channel, and as you're watching this, you've probably seen a lot of videos talking about specific synthesizers and why their sound is so great and so beloved and so classic. And as a reason, you often get to hear, well, it's the filters, it's the oscillators, maybe the amplifiers, or the analog circuitry, or maybe specific type of DSP coding that is particularly clever. But I've never, or only once maybe, seen a video talks about the two most obvious reasons that cause a synthesizer to sound like it sounds. And obviously, the second most important factor in a synthesizer sound is its input method, or in this case, its keyboard. Let's take a look. So, the very first patch on the XSynth is a tech demo of its capabilities, and it has polyphonic aftertouch and velocity sensitivity. So, you can try to play something on the keyboard here. Okay. Keep that in mind. Now we'll try the same thing on the montage, which is connected here to the MIDI input, and it also sends polyphonic aftertouch. So you're not hearing the montage, you're hearing the same patch on the XSynth. And if you're not a keyboard guy, you'll probably agree that there is a world of difference between using cheap encoders and cheap potentiometers versus using expensive and high quality ones. There is nothing more annoying than getting that filter sweep wrong because you overshot the target, or because the encoder potentiometer was moving in ways it shouldn't move. The XSynth also has a quite nice grand piano patch, which you probably didn't notice because it's nearly impossible to play on the tiny keyboard. Okay, so the kind of input, keyboard, encoders, potentiometers, mod wheels, they influence the sound of the synthesizer massively, but of course that's only the second most important factor, because the most important factor in how a synthesizer actually sounds, that's you. It's obvious, obviously. We as people, we have our preferences and we gravitate towards sound we've always liked. So no matter if you're using a Korg Volca, a high-end workstation, or finally that classic 70s analog synthesizer, you are probably going to choose that detuned saw wave you've always liked, because you heard it in that very specific moment in your life that shaped your musical taste forever. Be it the Blade Runner soundtrack, or perhaps listening to the Equinox introduction for the first time on a cold winter day on your father's stereo, or because you heard that detuned super saw wave on a festival in the 90s, or the coldness of the first digital synths on the first industrial track that impressed you so much. In order to drive this point home, I came up with a short chord progression and then I recorded it myself. So the chord progression is A minor, F major, E minor, G major, repeated all over again, and the patch is Polydreams on Montage M or the Mod XM. Here's my take. By the way, that's a beautiful patch. And then I asked my friend Lanthan if he could take the same patch and the same chord progression and jam over it for a minute. So let's listen to this. So obviously Lanthan also used different keyboard action, but most importantly, he is a completely different person with different experiences, different tastes in music, and a very different approach to tackling such spontaneous improvisation, resulting in pieces that are kind of similar but also very different. So what do we learn from all of this? One thing we can say is that that next synth patches probably isn't going to change your sound a whole lot. So my theory is the sound we seek is formed by preferences which were formed at specific moments in our life that we fondly remember. What I wanted to say is that you probably didn't like the sound of the Yamaha CS80, you liked the sound of Vangelis. You don't remember the VCS3 fondly, but rather the first time you heard Jean-Michel Jarre playing it. And it wasn't the Roland JD800 that made the track so memorable, but rather Sister Bliss this playing that famous arpeggio on Insomnia, and you're not a fan of the Silent One plugin, but rather of the famous tracks that Avicii created with it. And maybe that's an incentive to finally visit that concert of that artist. Just go there and listen to them and pay your tributes. We have already lost so many of these pioneers in recent years, and the chances of actually seeing them and hearing them performing are getting slimmer every day. Well, sorry for ending on that sour note, but it was just a thought that crossed my mind. Yeah, and there you have it. The main factor that's influencing a synthesizer's sound is you. And the second most important factor for a synthesizer sound is the input method you're choosing. I think it was David Gilmour who once said, "You can hand me the cheapest guitar you have and I will still sound like me." And of course, that's true for every instrument you use. So, while analog filters, analog oscillators, or digital filters, digital oscillators, and analog to digital converters, digital to analog converters, and what have you not, they're certainly kind of important to the overall sound. But no one on earth will choose or shape a sound like you choose in that moment you're interacting with your own instrument. And, well, yeah, that's just the thing I wanted you to keep in mind when taking part in online discussions of this type. I hope you found this interesting or useful or entertaining. And if you did, please please consider subscribing to this channel for more technology news, strange electronic gadgets, and electronic music production in general. Thanks for your time. See you next week. Bye bye.